It's been weeks since your phone actually buzzed with a notification that mattered. Your birthday came and went in silence. You spent Friday night staring at the ceiling completely alone, and when an old acquaintance reached out to ask what you were up to, typed swamped with work and hit send. But that wasn't the truth, was it? You weren't swamped. You were fortifying your sanctuary. Outside world, you looked detached, cold. They whisper that you've changed, that you've become impossible to reach. But they're missing the point entirely. You didn't cut them off to punish them. You stopped reaching out because you finally admitted you were the only one reaching at all. Welcome to Quiet Pressure Sketchbook. Let's dissect the anatomy of the person who walks away. Because contrary to popular belief, this isn't an act of malice. It's an act of survival. Let's be real about how you got here. You didn't possess a heart of stone from birth. Quite the opposite. Arrived at this point after a decade of having a heart that was too open, too available, and too easily bruised. You were the emergency contact, the roadside assistance, the therapist who worked for free at 2 a.m. You were the load-bearing wall in everyone else's collapsing house. Then the inevitable happened. You cracked. You looked around for support, for just one person to hold the weight, while you caught your breath silence. Maybe you got a generic hope you feel better message. Maybe you got nothing, and that is when the calculation in your mind fundamentally shifted. Wasn't a conscious decision at first. It was your subconscious realizing you were investing in a Ponzi scheme of emotional energy. You were pouring gold into a machine that only dispensed empty wrappers. You realized that every time you adjusted your boundaries to accommodate their comfort, you were teaching them that your comfort didn't exist. This is where the biology of isolation kicks in. Your nervous system isn't malfunctioning, it's finally doing its job. Identified a threat, it realized that every time you offered vulnerability, you received negligence in return. The friend who vanished during your depression. The partner who treated your needs like a nuisance. Your body learned a hard lesson: intimacy is a trap door. So you decided to stand in the hallway. Instead, here is the uncomfortable truth that confuses people. The exit is empowering, is a specific kind of relief in being the one who locks the door. They call it self-sabotage, you call it ending the cycle. But we have to look backward to understand the blueprint. This usually isn't just about bad friends in your 20s. This echoes back to a childhood bedroom where you learned that being good meant being low maintenance. Maybe you had a parent who was physically present but emotionally vacant. Maybe you learned early on that your needs were a burden. So you became an expert at having none. You were trained to believe that connection was something you had to earn. Through service, through silence, or through fixing things, your adult life became a reenactment of that early programming. You sought out people who made you work for their affection, proving over and over again that love is scarce. Until now, until your nervous system said no more, people accuse you of building a fortress. But you aren't building a fortress, you're installing a filter. Is a massive distinction. A fortress traps you inside. A filter just keeps the toxins out. Issue is after years of inhaling smoke, fresh air feels suspicious. And this is a critical phase. You aren't resigning from humanity. You are resigning from the role of the convenient option. You didn't stop craving connection. You stopped tolerating extraction. You've morphed into a profiler of human behavior. You can sense the imbalance in a friendship within 10 minutes. You spot the red flags that used to look like garlands. The person who interrupts you constantly, the one who only calls when their life is in chaos, is too busy when yours is falling apart. You don't get angry anymore, you just observe. You see the text that says, "Let's catch up." You know it actually translates to "I need an audience." You see the flackiness not as an accident, but as a character trait. This is what psychologists might call hyper-awareness, but here on Quiet Pressure Sketchbook, we call it clarity. You are reading the subtext that everyone else ignores. You notice that the effort is a one-way street. always flowing away from you. Your skepticism isn't bitterness, it's pattern recognition, and the pattern is flawless. You've become fluent in the language of indifference. Know exactly when the "we should hang out" plans will die, usually 3 days before the event. You've watched the movie enough times to know the ending, so now you just walk out of the theater early. You stop initiating, you stop chasing, you stop carrying the conversation, and the silence that follows. That tells you everything you needed to know. Here is the revelation that changed everything for you. Most crushing loneliness wasn't when you stopped talking to them. It was when you were sitting right next to them feeling completely invisible. Physically alone is just geography, being with people who don't see you. That is a spiritual draining. Realize that the solitude didn't create the void, it just exposed it. And to your surprise, the silence isn't haunting, it's healing. The solo weekends, the quiet phone, the holidays without the drama. You braced yourself for grief, but you found tranquility. The world doesn't understand why you choose the empty room. They don't get that. For you, isolation isn't a lack of friends. It's a lack of injury. It's the only place where you are safe from the inevitable letdown. You aren't frozen, you are hibernating. You aren't closed, you are under construction. This isn't about swearing off love or friendship for the rest of your life. It is about refusing to buy the counterfeit version you've been sold for years. Is a declaration that says, "I would rather starve than eat poison." Here is the secret about choosing yourself. It's like selfishness to those who benefited from your self-sacrifice. It is not selfish to reclaim the resources you need to survive. You cannot keep watering dead plants with your own blood. You aren't the villain of this story, no matter how they spin it. You are simply the character who finally developed a backbone. Maybe down the road you will open the gates again. Maybe you will find people who view loyalty as a practice, not a word, people who meet you in the middle without being dragged there. But for right now, you are guarding the flicker of light you have left. You are protecting the part of you that still believes in something better by refusing to let the wrong people extinguish it. Cutting them off isn't hate, it's the highest form of self-respect. Your silence is an answer, your withdrawal is a boundary, and those walls, they aren't a prison, they are a cocoon. They are giving you the time to remember who you are when you aren't busy performing for an ungrateful audience. You are sitting in the quiet you created. Might not be the social life you were told to want, but it is the peace you desperately needed. If this speaks to your current chapter, hit the subscribe button for Quiet Pressure Sketchbook. We focus on the reality of your internal world, giving you the tools to rebuild on your own terms. Next time we'll talk about how to start again, but only when you're ready.